Hello everyone and welcome to Fright Night. Are you ready for a scary story? A normally peaceful college campus, a psychic who predicts a mass murder, and one of the scariest twists ever devised in literature. With Halloween upon us, what better way to top off the season than with this absolutely terrifying season-related urban legend that is the campus killer? Let's dive right in. Autumn had hit all across school grounds, and with it was a collage of vibrant color in the form of fallen leaves, which boasted a spectrum of breathtaking yellows, oranges, reds, and dark purples. For three friends, being Robert, George, and Michelle, this was a new phenomenon. The trio had all grown up and attended the same high school in a small farming community near, and where they hailed from, there was really only two seasons: a long and brutal summer, and a short but harsh winter. The fall their college town offered was a welcome reprieve, and they celebrated their adulthood and this unfamiliar season by taking the weekend to explore the surrounding townscape and its various attractions and shops. They started their day with coffee from a popular cafe right on the border of campus that was a favorite amongst their peers. They bought new clothes from several boutiques, namely new coats, as the news had been warning of an early freeze, before having lunch at a popular local restaurant on Main Street, and later perusing the area's novelty shops and event venues. By the time the sun was fading, the group had explored pretty much every block surrounding the campus itself, and were just readying themselves to return to their dorms, when Michelle spotted something that made her jump with excitement. "Ooh," she squealed, pointing and hopping in place. "Guys, look, look!" Robert and George's gazes followed her finger across the street to a small, dark purple building sandwiched between two larger businesses, with a sign across the front that read, "Psychic. Inquire inside for pricing." "You want to see a psychic?" asked George, laughing. "Probably so she can figure out when she's actually going to meet someone that wants to date her," teased Robert. "Shut up," snipped Michelle, punching Robert in the arm. "I'm serious, guys. I've always wanted to go to one of these things. You know, my aunt visited a psychic once, and she ended up winning $2,000 the very next day." The trio chatted and argued in the way that friends that are as close as siblings do for a short time before crossing the street and entering the shop. Inside, the space was smoky and mysterious. The scent of incense filled their nostrils, and odd curios and strange items littered towering shelves, most of which that were covered by layers of dust. Various tapestries and curtains hung from the walls, and pretty much every space that wasn't adorned with either artwork or some form of paranormal fixture was covered with bookcases that were filled with all sorts of odd texts, most of which that were in Latin or other languages. Suddenly, a wavery, raspy, and yet sing-songy female voice cut through the silence. "Welcome," it said dramatically, just as an older woman with frizzy hair and dark eyeliner rounded the corner. "Are you three enjoying your day?" "Shouldn't you know?" asked Robert mockingly. "Aren't you the psychic?" "That's very true, Robert," she said in a knowing manner. "Whoa," started Robert. "How did you know my—" She dismissed his question with a wave of her hand. "You're worried about your dog back home, Milo, right?" she asked Robert. "Don't be. He's fine." "How did you—" started Robert, amazed. But again, they were met with the sharp wave of a hand. "Michelle," she started, "don't worry about your trigonometry scores. They're all A's." Okay, responded Michelle excitedly. "Can we ask you some things?" "You are aware that there's a price for a reading, no?" asked the psychic. They all nodded slowly. "Yeah, I'm afraid we're your typical broke college students," muttered George apologetically. "Honestly, we just wanted to check your shop out, ma'am," stated Michelle humbly. "That's very fair," continued the psychic, "but I am still running a business. Come back when—" She stopped speaking suddenly, and a look that started as shock and turned quickly to horror overtook her face. "Oh my," she said absently, as if her whole attention was focused on some vision unseen by the trio. "Oh no. Oh dear. No. What is it?" asked George, his voice laced with an undeniable hint of concern. "No," stated the psychic finally after a moment. "No, something this terrible? It would be wicked of me not to warn you. Heed my words. This Halloween, a killer will strike the campus, will claim the lives of no less than 163 students. It's very likely that you three are among those killed." The group began chatting amongst themselves nervously. This psychic had been right about so much, it was nearly impossible for this warning not to scare them a bit. After a moment, they thanked the psychic and headed back to their dorms, and as they walked, they discussed how they could, avoid getting murdered on Halloween night. Now, none of the trio had been lucky enough to dorm with each other, and that being said, eventually tales of the psychic's prediction spread to their dorm mates, then to acquaintances, and later across the whole of campus, until the school body was abuzz with rumors and anxious chatter about this supposed campus killer. The story's reputation and infamy grew such that a large portion of the student populace was actually called home by their parents for that particular night, while others, including George, Robert, and Michelle, planned a massive party in order to keep safe until the dawn of November 1st. As Halloween neared, the trio and their friends had hatched a plan. There was a particularly large, sturdy frat house a few blocks down. On October 30th, the night before Halloween, everyone was to finish their schoolwork and return to the frat, where they already had all the doors and windows aside from the very front door locked and boarded up tight. Beyond that, everyone had armed themselves with bats and knives, and of the group's largest, more physically capable members, through rotating shifts, they would have 4 guards at the front door at all times to make sure no one could get through. All remaining students on campus were to sleep over at the frat, where they would all stay locked in through the following day, and when Halloween night hit, they would host what they were calling a safety party that would last until the danger had passed the following morning. It was an ironclad plan. By the time Halloween night arrived, the fraternity was filled with laughter that didn't quite reach anyone's eyes. Students huddled in groups, sipping from red cups, assuring one another that they were safe, that if anything were to happen, it would have already transpired. The sound of muffled music and the scent of sweat and cheap alcohol filled every corner of the building. Michelle, always the optimist, had spent the night doing what she could to keep the energy up. But by midnight, she and her friend Kara had retreated upstairs to one of the guest rooms to escape the noise. The air below was thick and hot, bodies packed shoulder to shoulder downstairs, every vent covered, every window nailed shut. Kara sat cross-legged on the bed, fishing a bottle from her bag as they chatted. "You want a drink?" she asked, twisting the cap. Michelle shook her head. "Nah, I'm good. Someone's gotta stay clear-headed tonight." But Kara just laughed and persisted. "Come on, one sip won't kill you." Michelle hesitated for a moment, and then gave in, taking the bottle. She didn't know what the liquor was, but it burned her throat as she drank it, and made her cough hard enough that her eyes were watering. She waved her hand in front of her face and even had to open the window to get some fresh air, after which a sharp breeze laced with frost and fallen leaves brought her back to her senses. "Better?" asked Kara, giggling. "Yeah," Michelle said, laughing too. "Much better." The two girls continued to pass the bottle back and forth until the room tilted around them. The noise of the party below faded into a distant hum, and at some point, Kara slumped sideways against the wall, eyes half closed, with Michelle laying down next to her, the empty bottle rolling from her hand and coming to a rest on the carpet. The last thing she remembered was the wind brushing her face, cool, almost soothing, and that faint rhythm of music drifting up the stairs, and then darkness. When morning came, the house was silent. The police report would later describe a scene of horror, with every student in the house dead. There were no signs of struggle, no signs of a break-in. No, the truth was much more sinister. Sometime after midnight, the furnace had failed, and through the window that Michelle had left open on accident, the heat had been sucked right out and replaced with freezing night air. The cold had come quickly. Upstairs, the bodies of Michelle and Kara were found right near the epicenter of the freeze, with frost tracing the edges of the bottle they'd shared. Their bodies pale, peaceful, almost serene, as if they'd simply gone to sleep. Investigators would call it a tragic accident, a mechanical failure, a preventable disaster, but those who had heard the psychic's warning never forgot the death count. There were exactly 163 people killed in the incident, just as foretold. Now, no pun intended here, what a chilling story, and one I thought was rather perfect for a Halloween release. But where did it come from? And surely there can't be any truth to this frost-covered fable, right? Historically, the campus killer, which has also been known as the prediction or the prophecy, can be traced back to the late 1990s when a widely circulated rumor claimed a psychic predicted a mass murder of students on a college campus somewhere, on or around Halloween night. The legend would blend recognizable folklore tropes such as a psychic prediction, a campus setting, or youth drinking when they shouldn't be, etc., etc. Subsequently, this story was featured in 2004 in Master of Urban Legends Jan Harold Brunvon's book, Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid, the book of scary urban legends. After which, through the rest of the 2000s, it gained even more notoriety, as it spread as both a campus rumor and internet creepypasta. Now, as far as any truth to this legend goes, I can safely report that it is 100% fiction, and not one bit of the narrative is in any way true. Unfortunately, deaths on college campuses due to accidents is something that does occur from time to time. But as for documented cases, not one involved a psychic, a mass murder, or hundreds dead. So it's safe to say that this particular tale was created for one reason and one reason alone: as a cautionary story. Like many other urban legends, it was designed for youth to associate danger or unavoidable death with things like partying, drinking, and staying out too late, in the hopes that it would keep them away from such activities. And while false, at the end of the day, you kind of have to admit, it does make you think. So this season, eat some good candy, carve that perfect jack-o'-lantern, and indulge in lavish food and drink. October 31st is a night to be celebrated, after all. Don't be scared to let loose and have some fun. Just remember to shut the doors and windows when the fun is over. And from Fright Night to everyone watching, have a safe and very, very happy Halloween.